If you go on Clash Royale forum right now and type Hog Rider, you will find two types of people. The first type is genuinely convinced that this card is the most broken thing to ever exist in Clash Royale. And the second type will look you dead in the eyes and say, just use a building. And somehow, both of them are right. What's funny though, is when the community ran a poll asking players to permanently delete one card from the game forever, Hog Rider was the first card eliminated. So how does a card that has been meta relevant for over 10 years, has a usage rate hovering around 17% on ladder, fits into more deck archetypes than any other win condition in the game? So I wanted to actually figure out what's going on with this card and look at 4 specific things that make this card genuinely overpowered. And no, just use a building is not the answer to any of them. The Hog Rider has been one of the most reliant and used win conditions in all of Clash Royale, with a high damage output, a fast hit speed and even faster movement speed. As a win condition, its main job is to get you the win by dealing damage to the towers, and the Hog Rider does this job perfectly, sometimes even too perfectly, regardless of the counters your opponent has. Whether it's a building or a swarm, a small mistiming or misplacement means even a perfect counter will allow the Hog to deal at least one hit on the tower, and stack that over the course of the match, and it could take a whole tower down despite your opponent having the perfect counter. I looked at the Hog Rider from every possible angle and narrowed it down to 4 things that make it genuinely overpowered, and these aren't just random complaints, these are genuine game mechanics. So let's start with the first one, the guaranteed hit problem. This is the thing that drives people insane more than anything else about this card. Even when you counted the Hog correctly, even when you have the right card in hand and play it on time, the Hog somehow still gets a hit on your tower, and this is because of the 0.6 second first attack speed. So the moment the Hog Rider reaches your tower, it swings almost instantly. Even if your Hog pulls it, if it's just one level lower, the Hog will take down the cannon and continue onto the tower, getting at least one hit. Even if your mini P.E.K.K.A. is already walking towards it, Hog's fast movement speed will allow it to walk past your mini P.E.K.K.A. and still land one hit on your tower. And even if you tornado it, well, you're taking damage to your king tower. And when the Hog connects, it deals 317 damage at tournament standard, which is roughly 5% of your princess tower's health. Now 317 doesn't sound like much on its own, but what happens is, you spend elixir to counter it, you played the right card, you defended correctly, and you still took damage. Imagine if every time you played a mini P.E.K.K.A. against a giant and fully stopped it, the giant still got one hit on your tower every single time. You would lose your mind. Compare this to other win conditions like a giant, a balloon, or a goblin giant. With the right kiting and counter troops, you can perfectly defend it without taking a single hit on your tower, because the margin of error is much higher. You have more time to defend, and more options to defend with. Now I'm not saying the Hog Rider is impossible to fully counter. A perfectly placed cannon will pull it and kill it without a single hit. Mini P.E.K.K.A. with skeletons can shut it down completely, so there are ways to take 0 damage, but that's kind of the point. You need a perfect placement, perfect timing, and the exact right cards in your hand at the exact moment. And if any of those things is even slightly off, you're taking a hit no matter what. Now one free hit might not seem like a big deal on its own, but it becomes a real problem when the person on the other end can do this over and over again, turning one hit into 4 or 5 across the game, taking down the tower. So that one free hit we talked about gets a lot worse when you realize how quickly Hog Rider comes back. And this is the second problem, the cycle advantage. In a 2.6 Hog cycle deck, which is arguably the most famous deck of all time, the average elixir cost is 2.6. That means after playing Hog Rider, you need to spend roughly 6 elixir on cheap cards to get back to it. So if you're playing a 3.5 average elixir deck, which is pretty standard, you just use your mini P.E.K.K.A. to fully counter their Hog. But now you need to play through 3 or 4 cards that cost an average of 3.5 each to get your mini P.E.K.K.A. back. This is over 10 elixir worth of cards before you see your counter again. But the Hog player is already at the bridge with another one hopping towards your tower. And this is because the decks Hog Rider is included in are all built on one thing: defending cheaply, cycling fast, and sending as many Hog Riders as you can. Whether it's the Hog 2.6 or Hog EQ, it's a cycle deck built for speed and pressure. And this is what makes a Hog Rider fundamentally different from other win conditions. The battle ram also costs 4 elixir, but nobody is cycling back to the battle ram this fast, because the decks that run it aren't built that way. And Giant also deals massive tower damage, but nobody plays Giant Cycle. And even if you decide to do it, its low movement speed makes it hard to break through your opponent's troops, so you need support behind it to work. Same thing for a balloon player. The closest comparison to the Hog Rider is the cheap win conditions like Goblin Barrel, Skeleton Barrel and Wall Breakers and Hyperbait decks that also rely on intense pressure and chip damage to win. But here's the part that really gets me. Given you need perfect plays to stop a Hog with 0 damage, imagine having to make that perfect play every 15 or 20 seconds. Because this is what a Hog cycle player is asking you to do. It's all about pressuring you hard enough to make one mistake, and then the Hog is free to take 3 or even 4 hits on your tower. They only need you to mess up once. Now all of this forces you to prepare for a Hog every time, and build your deck with this in mind, which is the third problem. Forces your deck building. Most win conditions can be countered with many common cards. Goblin Barrel, War Breakers and Skeleton Barrel can be countered by most spells and splash cards. Any mini tank or high damage dealing troop can deal with a giant or elixir golem. But Hog Rider is different. If you don't have a building in your deck or a very specific high DPS troop, you are going to take significant damage every single time. There is no general purpose answer to a fast building targeter that ignores all your troops and sprints to your tower. You need a cannon, a Tesla, or a tornado, or a perfectly timed mini P.E.K.K.A. And this is 1 out of 8 card slots in your deck permanently dedicated to answering one card. And given the Hog is a highly used card, this means that your deck absolutely needs a Hog counter. Now think about what this means for deck building. You have 8 slots that you need to fill with a win condition, a spell or 2, something for air troops, something for swarms, and now you also need a Hog answer specifically. Now yes, you might argue with me that every win condition has counters you need to carry. And sure, that's true, but there's a difference between needing a counter and being forced into one. Clash Royale is all based on matchups. There are some times where your opponent's deck naturally counters yours, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is just how the matchmaking system works, and how a strategy game like this one works. But most win conditions can be countered using many different common options. If the enemy is playing Golem, I don't need a specific card for it, I just need a general game plan of pressuring opposite lane. If they're playing Graveyard, I can use Poison, Arrows, Valkyrie, Baby Dragon, Witch, or honestly like 15 different cards that I might already have in my deck anyway. But for Hog Rider, if you don't have a building and your only answer is something like a Knight, well, congratulations, you're taking 600 damage minimum every time he crosses the bridge. The Knight will eventually kill it for sure, but not before the Hog gets 2 solid hits in. Now this next point is what really completes the Hog Rider as an OP win condition, the versatility problem. Hog Rider appears in at least 7 to 8 distinct viable deck archetypes. You have the classic 2.6 Hog cycle, the most played deck in Clash Royale history. You have Hog Earthquake, which directly eliminates building from the equation, Hog Executioner Tornado, which give you insane defensive control into Hog counter pushes, and around 4 to 5 other variations that are all built around the Hog Rider. And these are not just random decks with the Hog as a win condition, these are all valid meta-dominating decks. In comparison, Golem has only one, Golem Beatdown. Giant has maybe 2 or 3 variations, but they're all fundamentally the same strategy. X-Bow has 2, Regular Cycle and Ice Bow. Balloon has 3 if you're being generous, with Lavaloon and Lumberloon. Even Miner, who is probably the closest to Hog in versatility, maxes out at maybe 4 or 5. No other win condition in the game comes close to the over 6 or 7 Hog deck variations that can all realistically compete at the highest levels of the game. This makes the card basically unkillable at the meta level regardless of nerfs. You can't target it with balance changes, because it has over 7 different decks to run to, all equally as powerful. If you nerf the Musketeer, you can put the Hog along with Valkyrie and Firecracker. If you buff the Cannon, well, Hog EQ still perfectly counters it. Now I'm not saying the Hog breaks the game and there's nothing anyone can do about it, because 2.6 Hog cycle does have some terrible matchups, and the deck itself is one of the hardest decks to master in the game. Every card in it is individually weak, and you need thousands of games of experience to make it work at a high level. But here's the thing, a card that has been meta relevant for over 10 years, that has never fallen once out of the meta, is not just a balanced card. The Hog Rider has unique characteristics that make it incredibly efficient at doing its job, which is dealing tower damage. It's hard to defend against without perfect placement, timing, and cards, and is incredibly versatile considering the different decks it can work with. Compared to other win conditions, the Hog remains one of the best of all time, simply because it has one job, and it does that job perfectly well. Now what do you think? Does the Hog Rider needs a nerf or not? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.